You might be confused about how social differentiation is different from social inequality and why that difference matters for UPSC answers. By the end of this video, you will be completely clear about these concepts and able to explain them in crisp exam-ready language. Let's begin with a simple observation. Human societies are diverse in many ways. Some differences are biological, like age or sex. Some are psychological, like aptitude, and some are social, like access to wealth or prestige. Social differentiation simply names those different categories without ranking them, so groups can exist side by side horizontally. Think of language groups or religions placed next to each other on a map. That is differentiation, not inequality. But when those differences are evaluated as better or worse and rewards are given unequally, differentiation turns vertical and becomes social inequality. Inequality introduces rank and creates winners and losers in access to resources and respect. Social stratification is a more organized form of inequality, where groups are stacked into layers or strata. Each stratum shares identity, lifestyle, and unequal shares of rewards like wealth, prestige, and power. Imagine a ladder where each rung represents a social position. That ladder is a hierarchy. Hierarchy puts positions in order from top to bottom and creates social distance between people. Where hierarchy is rigid and inherited, ascription dominates and mobility is limited. Where positions are open to achievement and competition, achieved criteria tend to govern movement up or down. For UPSC, this distinction matters when you write about policies aimed at equality of opportunity versus policies that address structural inequality. Now let's break stratification into three key dimensions you must remember: power, prestige, and wealth. Power means control over people and resources. Prestige is social honor, and wealth is material resources and income. These three together shape life chances and everyday experiences of people across society. Next, two patterns of inequality you must be able to explain clearly are cumulative and dispersed inequality. Cumulative inequality is when a group is consistently high or low across most dimensions like wealth, prestige, and education. Karl Marx showed how capitalism can produce cumulative gaps between classes over time. Dispersed inequality occurs when a group or individual is privileged on one dimension but not others. For example, a person may be very prestigious due to education but lack equivalent economic resources. These patterns matter for exam answers because they show that inequality is not always uniform and needs different policy responses. Another pair of ideas to master are status crystallization and status inconsistency. Status crystallization is when someone ranks similarly across economic, political, and cultural markers, creating stable positions and predictable life chances. Status inconsistency is the mismatch, high on one dimension but low on another. And that mismatch often generates tension and political mobilization. Gerhard Lenski used this idea to explain how mismatched statuses can spark conflict or reform movements. A classic Indian example is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, whose high education and low caste status produced both grievance and leadership. Understanding status inconsistency helps you answer questions on social movements and leadership in the UPSC Mains. Now let's look at how societies legitimize inequality. Harmonic and disharmonic systems. Harmonic systems openly legitimize rank through norms or religion, as seen in classical formulations of the caste order. Disharmonic systems formally promise equality but still display real-world inequalities and discrimination. Modern constitutional democracies are often disharmonic. Equality is promised, but socio-economic gaps persist. This gap between norms and practice increases pressure for reform and is a frequent subject in UPSC essays and GS answers. Theoretical perspectives give you lenses to analyze these empirical facts. Marx focused on class and economic exploitation to explain cumulative inequality in capitalist societies. Weber expanded the view with class, status, and party to explain how multiple bases of power create complex stratification. Lenski emphasized surplus and technology in producing inequality, and the idea of status crystallization and inconsistency. André Bette contrasted harmonic and disharmonic systems and showed how norms affect legitimacy and stability of inequality. Keep these theories as short labels in your answers. Marx for economy, Weber for multidimensionality, Lenski for status dynamics, Bette for legitimacy. Practically, hierarchy organizes power and authority. In bureaucracies, authority flows top to bottom, shaping decision-making and resource allocation. Hierarchical position affects access not just to income but also to honor, recognition, and political influence. When hierarchy becomes hereditary or closed, social mobility is restricted, and policies must focus on redistribution and affirmative measures. And towards the end, we will understand a key idea that most UPSC aspirants miss: the policy implication of dispersed versus cumulative inequality. Quick exam insight. Questions from this topic commonly appear in GS Paper 1 under Society and Social Justice and in Sociology Optional papers. In answers, use concise definitions, a short example, a theoretical perspective, and a policy implication to score well. Now let me summarize the essentials in plain language. Social differentiation is horizontal diversity. Social inequality is vertical and leads to stratification. Stratification ranks groups by power, prestige, and wealth and creates life chances. Cumulative inequality stacks advantages across dimensions. Dispersed inequality scatters them across different axes. Status crystallization stabilizes position, while status inconsistency can fuel mobilization and grievance. Harmonic systems legitimize rank. Disharmonic systems promise equality but fail in practice, which often leads to protest. Keep the theorists ready as quick tags: Marx, Weber, Lenski, Bette. Thank you for listening, and remember that clear structure and simple examples make your UPSC answers powerful and persuasive. If you want to practice quick answer frameworks or get sample mains answers on inequality and hierarchy, continue learning with EduRev. Join EduRev for concise notes, model answers, and quizzes that turn these concepts into exam-ready sentences. Good luck, stay curious, and see you in the next lesson where we apply these ideas to a real UPSC question.